Hello everyone. In this lecture, I am going to explain, line by line, the famous poem Ode to a Nightingale, written by John Keats. But before I start, if you are new to my channel, please like and subscribe my channel. Without wasting the time, let's begin. My heart aches, and a drowsy numbness pains my sense, as though of hemlock I had drunk. In the opening line, John Keats expresses a deep sense of sadness. He says that his heart is aching, and he feels numb, almost like he has drunk hemlock. As you know, it is a poisonous plant known for causing death. This tells us that he is overwhelmed by emotions, possibly a mix of sorrow and exhaustion. The comparison to hemlock suggests a feeling of escape, as if he wants to disconnect from reality. And then says, or emptied some dull opiate to the drains. 1 minute passed, and lethe wards had sunk. Here, Keats continues to describe his state of mind. He compares his feeling to someone who has just taken an opiate. Actually, you should not be confused about opiate, which refers to a drug that dulls pain and makes people drowsy. The phrase, lethe wards had sunk, refers to the river Lethe in Greek mythology, which made people forget their past when they drank from it. This tells us that the poet wishes to forget his worries and escape reality. 'Tis not through envy of thy happy lot, but being too happy in thine happiness. In these lines he addresses the nightingale directly. He says that he does not feel this way because he is jealous of the bird's happiness. Instead, he is too happy because of its joy. This might seem contradictory, but it means that the bird's song is so beautiful that it overwhelms him with emotions, both admiration and sadness. That thou, light-winged dryad of the trees, in some melodious plot, of beechen green, and shadows numberless, singest of summer in full-throated ease. In these lines, Keats calls the nightingale a dryad, which is a tree spirit in Greek mythology. He imagines the bird living in a perfect, magical place filled with green beech trees and endless shadows. The phrase, full-throated ease, suggests that the nightingale sings freely and effortlessly, unlike humans who struggle with pain and suffering. Oh, for a draught of vintage that hath been, cooled a long age in the deep-delved earth. Here, the poet suddenly wishes for a drink of vintage. It refers to an old wine, that has been stored in the cool earth for many years. He longs for the pleasure and escape that wine can bring. This is a contrast to the painful emotions he described earlier. And then says, tasting of Flora and the country green, dance, and Provençal song, and sunburnt mirth. Tasting of Flora and the country green, dance, and Provençal song, and sunburnt mirth. In these lines Keats imagines this wine tasting like flora and the freshness of the countryside. He also associates it with dancing, songs from Provence. Provence was a region in France known for its lively culture, and sunburnt mirth. It means happiness under the warm sun. Basically, these images create a joyful and festive atmosphere. Oh, for a beaker full of the warm south, full of the true, the blushful hippocrene. Here, he wishes for another drink, one full of the warmth of the south. He also mentions hippocrene, a mythical fountain that was believed to inspire poets. This shows that he is seeking inspiration as well as escape. With beaded bubbles winking at the brim, and purple-stained mouth. In this line Keats is describing a glass of wine in a very detailed and beautiful way. He shows how tiny bubbles form and pop at the edge of the cup, making them look like they are winking. He also mentions how drinking the deep purple wine can leave a stain on the drinker's mouth. And then says, that I might drink, and leave the world unseen, and with thee fade away into the forest dim. Keats expresses his desire to drink and disappear from the world. He wants to fade away and join the nightingale in the peaceful darkness of the forest, away from human struggles. This suggests that he longs for an escape from reality. Fade far away, dissolve, and quite forget what thou among the leaves hast never known. It means that he wants to completely dissolve and forget the pain of human life. He tells the nightingale that it has never known the hardships of the world. Actually, it suggests that the bird is free from human suffering. And then says, the weariness, the fever, and the fret. Here, where men sit and hear each other groan. In these lines he describes the struggles of human life. Words like weariness, fever, and fret highlight the suffering, sickness, and constant anxiety that people experience. He contrasts this with the nightingale's carefree existence. Simply, you can say that we human just sit and hear the difficulties of one another, but a nightingale is different. And then says, where palsy shakes a few, sad, last grey hairs, where youth grows pale, and spectre thin, and dies. These lines paint a grim picture of aging and death. Palsy refers to a disease that causes shaking, and spectre thin suggests that young people become weak and die early. This makes life seem depressing and full of unavoidable suffering. Where but to think is to be full of sorrow. It means that Keats is expressing a deep sadness about human existence. He suggests that merely thinking on life makes a person sad. Simply, this could be because of the harsh realities of life, pain, suffering, and the fleeting nature of happiness. And leaden-eyed despairs. Here, leaden-eyed suggests a tired, weary state caused by constant sadness and hopelessness. Simply, you can say the weight of sorrow makes life exhausting, and that he feels burdened by despair. Where beauty cannot keep her lustrous eyes. In this line Keats is highlighting the temporary nature of beauty. Even the most beautiful things in life, such as youth and love, cannot remain unchanged. Over time, beauty fades, just like everything else in life. Or new love pine at them beyond tomorrow. It means that new love cannot last beyond a short time. Here the word pine means to long for something sadly. Actually, Keats suggests that even fresh, passionate love does not last long. The excitement of love fades quickly, and lovers soon find themselves longing for something lost. Away, away! For I will fly to thee, not chariot by Bacchus and his pards. Keats now decides that instead of drinking wine, Bacchus is the Roman god of wine, and pards refers to his leopards. He will fly to the nightingale through poetry. This shows his belief in the power of imagination and art as an escape. And then says, but on the viewless wings of poesy. In this line, viewless means invisible. Here, Keats refers to the intangible nature of poetic imagination. Actually, he is saying that he wishes to fly to the nightingale's world using the invisible wings of poetry. Instead of relying on physical means, he wants his imagination and poetic creativity to transport him. Though the dull brain perplexes and retards, ***. In this line, dull brain represents the human mind burdened by mundane thoughts and concerns. And perplexes and retards means to confuse and slow down. So you can say that Keats acknowledges that his mind, clouded by everyday worries and logical reasoning, often confuses and hinders his imaginative flights. Despite this, he aspires to rise above these limitations through the power of poetry. Already with thee. Tender is the night. At this moment, Keats feels as if he has already joined the nightingale. The phrase, "tender is the night," creates a soft and dreamlike atmosphere. And haply the queen moon is on her throne. In this line Keats is imagining that the moon, which is often pictured as a queen ruling the night sky, is sitting on her throne. This makes the moon seem grand and important, like a queen in a fairy tale, clustered around by all her starry fays. It means that the moon is surrounded by stars, which are described as her fairy-like helpers or companions. This makes the sky seem magical, like a royal court with the moon as the queen and the stars as her fairy attendants. But here there is no light. It means that in the place where Keats is standing or sitting, it's very dark. There's no bright light like the moon or stars in the sky. And then says, "Save what from heaven is with the breezes blown." It means the only light here comes from the sky, and it's carried gently by the wind. Simply, you can say the light is soft and natural, not strong or direct. It's like a faint glow moving with the wind, through verdurous glooms and winding mossy ways. It means that this faint light filters through dark, green, leafy shadows and winding mossy ways. It paints a picture of a quiet, natural place filled with trees, plants, and moss, where the light barely reaches. I cannot see what flowers are at my feet, nor what soft incense hangs upon the boughs. As it is dark, the poet cannot see the flowers around him. However, he can still sense their fragrance. This suggests that he is experiencing nature in a more emotional, rather than visual way. But, in embalmed darkness, guess each sweet. It means that even in the deep, fragrant darkness, one can imagine or guess the presence of sweet scents. The word, embalmed, gives the darkness a rich, almost sacred quality, as if it is filled with the preserved essence of nature's beauty. And then says, "Wherewith the seasonable month endows." It means that the current month, likely late spring or early summer, generously provides these sweet scents and natural gifts. The word, endows, makes it seem like the month is a kind benefactor, bestowing its treasures upon the world. The grass, the thicket, and the fruit tree wild. Here, the poet describes the sources of these sweet scents, the grass, the dense bushes, and the wild fruit trees. These elements of nature are alive with fragrance. It contributes to the richness of the season. White hawthorn and the pastoral eglantine. The white hawthorn, it is a flowering shrub, and the eglantine is a type of wild rose, are specifically mentioned. These plants evoke a pastoral, countryside feeling, adding to the sense of natural beauty and simplicity. Fast fading violets covered up in leaves. It means that the violets are already fading and hidden beneath leaves. This suggests the fleeting nature of beauty and the passage of time, as even the most delicate flowers are temporary. And mid-May's eldest child. This phrase personifies mid-May as a parent, and its eldest child could refer to the first or most prominent flower of the season. It creates a sense of lineage and continuity in nature's cycle. The coming musk rose, full of dewy wine. It means that the musk rose, which is a fragrant flower, is described as full of dewy wine. It is brimming with moisture and sweetness, almost intoxicating in its beauty and scent. The imagery makes the flower seem alive and luxurious. And then says, "the murmurous haunt of flies on summer eves." Basically, this line paints a picture of summer evenings, where the air is filled with the soft, buzzing sound of flies around the flowers. The word murmurous creates a soothing atmosphere. Basically, it evokes the calm and warmth of a summer night. Darkling I listen, and, for many a time, I have been half in love with easeful death. He now introduces the idea of death. He admits that he has often thought about death as easeful, a gentle escape from suffering. This tells us that he finds the idea of dying peaceful rather than terrifying. Called him soft names in many a mused rhyme. In this line, the poet recalls how poets have written about the nightingale in their poetry. The phrase, soft names, gives us gentle, affectionate, and beautiful descriptions of the bird. Actually, these names have been written in mused rhyme. It refers to poetry that is inspired by deep thought or contemplation. The nightingale has been admired and celebrated throughout history in literature and songs, and the poet acknowledges this tradition. And then says, to take into the air my quiet breath. Here, Keats expresses a feeling of surrender. To take into the air suggests that his breath could dissolve and disappear into the night. My quiet breath implies a sense of desire for peaceful death. Basically, he struggled with illness, and this line reflects his yearning for an escape from the suffering of life. Now more than ever seems it rich to die. At this moment, death seems more appealing than ever before. The word rich here is unusual. It suggests that dying would not be a loss, but rather something valuable, almost luxurious. You can say that the poet is so overwhelmed by the beauty of the nightingale's song that he feels there could be no better moment to die than now. To cease upon the midnight with no pain. This line expands on the previous one. To cease means to die. The poet imagines dying peacefully at midnight, without pain or suffering. Simply, the idea of a painless death is important here. You should know that Keats suffered from tuberculosis, and he longed for an escape from his illness, but in a gentle, beautiful way. While thou art pouring forth thy soul abroad. It means that the nightingale's song is described as something deeply spiritual and emotional. The phrase, pouring forth thy soul, suggests that the bird is not simply singing, it is expressing its very essence, its soul, its deepest emotions. The word abroad emphasizes how far its song travels, filling the air around the poet, making it seem almost infinite and eternal. In such an ecstasy, the nightingale's song is described as being full of ecstasy. It refers to an intense joy and passion. This word is important because it highlights the contrast between the bird and the poet. The nightingale is lost in pure joy, while the poet is lost in thoughts of death. The nightingale does not seem to suffer, it sings without care, free from human pain. This contrast makes the poet admire the bird even more, but it also deepens his sorrow. Still wouldst thou sing, and I have ears in vain. This line is deeply sad. The poet realizes that even if he were to die, the nightingale's song would continue. The bird is eternal in its music, but he is just a temporary listener. The phrase, I have ears in vain, means that even though he can hear the song now, it would be meaningless to him after death. He would no longer be able to enjoy its beauty. To thy high requiem become a sod. This is one of the most powerful lines. A requiem is a song for the dead, usually played at funerals. The poet imagines that if he were to die, the nightingale's song would become his funeral hymn. The phrase, become a sod, means to become part of the earth, to be buried and forgotten. He envisions himself as just another lifeless body beneath the ground, while the nightingale continues to sing above, as if nothing had changed. And then says, thou wast not born for death, immortal bird. In this line he contrasts himself with the nightingale, saying that the bird is immortal. Unlike humans, whose lives are short and full of pain, the bird's song has been heard for generations. No hungry generations tread thee down. This line reinforces the idea that the nightingale is not affected by time in the same way that humans are. The phrase, hungry generations, refers to the endless cycle of human life. Each generation comes, struggles, and eventually fades away. However, the nightingale's song is untouched by this cycle. Unlike human achievements, which can be forgotten or destroyed, the beauty of the bird's song remains constant throughout history. The voice I hear this passing night was heard. The poet suggests that the nightingale's song is not just something of the present moment. He believes that the same melodic voice he hears now has been heard for centuries. The phrase, "this passing night," emphasizes the fleeting nature of time. This night will soon be gone, just as all nights before it. But the nightingale's song has remained unchanged, passing from one age to another. In ancient days by emperor and clown. Here, Keats highlights the universality of the nightingale's song. It has been heard by both emperors and common people. This contrast shows that the beauty of the nightingale's song is not limited by status or class, it belongs to everyone. Whether rich or poor, every human being can experience the same wonder when listening to the bird's music. Perhaps the self-same song that found a path. The poet now imagines that the exact same song he hears at this moment has been heard by others before him. The phrase, "found a path," suggests that the song has traveled through history. You can say it has reached the hearts of different people across time. The nightingale's song is not just sound, it is something that touches human emotions deeply. Through the sad heart of Ruth, when, sick for home. Now in this line Keats makes a biblical reference here to Ruth. She was a woman from the Old Testament. She left her homeland to follow her mother-in-law, to a foreign land. This was a difficult journey, and she must have felt lost, lonely, and homesick. The phrase, "sick for home," means longing for the place where she belonged, missing the comfort of familiar surroundings. Simply, it means that Keats imagines that in her sorrow, Ruth might have heard the nightingale's song, which could have provided her some comfort in a land that was not her own. She stood in tears amid the alien corn. This line paints a vivid picture of Ruth standing among foreign fields of corn, weeping. The word alien emphasizes that she is in a strange, unfamiliar place, far from home. Her sadness is deep, she feels alone and displaced. Yet, even in this sorrow, she might have heard the nightingale's song. The same that ofttimes hath. The phrase, ofttimes, means many times before. The poet suggests that throughout history, the nightingale's song has been heard again and again, bringing its beauty to different people in different circumstances. Charmed magic casements, opening on the foam. Keats now shifts from history and biblical references to the world of imagination and fairy tales. A casement is a window, and here it is described as magic, suggesting that the nightingale's song has enchanted people who sit by windows, dreaming of distant worlds. These windows open on the foam, meaning they look out onto the sea, perhaps on a stormy night. The image is one of adventure, mystery, and longing. Of perilous seas, in fairy lands forlorn. The perilous seas suggest danger, adventure, and the unknown, while fairy lands forlorn refers to magical, faraway places that are lost or unreachable. These lines make the nightingale's song seem almost supernatural, something that inspires stories of adventure and longing, filling the hearts of dreamers and wanderers with both wonder and sadness. Forlorn. The very word is like a bell, to toll me back from thee to my soul's self. The word forlorn suddenly snaps him out of his dreamlike state. It is like a bell calling him back to reality. He realizes that he cannot truly escape his troubles, he must return to his real life. Adieu. The fancy cannot cheat so well. It means that imagination is not able to trick him as easily as it usually does. Normally, imagination can create beautiful illusions that make life seem better, but now it is failing him. As she is famed to do, deceiving elf. It means that people often praise imagination for its ability to deceive and create pleasant dreams. He calls it a deceiving elf, meaning it is playful and tricky, but now it cannot take him away from reality. Adieu, adieu, thy plaintive anthem fades. It means that the poet is saying goodbye again as the nightingale's sad and mournful song begins to fade away, past the near meadows, over the still stream. It means that the song moves away, traveling past the nearby green fields and over a quiet, motionless stream. Up the hillside, and now 'tis buried deep. It means that the song rises up the hillside, becoming softer and softer, until it disappears completely. In the next valley glades. It means that the song is now lost in the next valley, as if it has been buried there, giving a feeling of distance and finality. This paints a picture of the bird flying away, taking its song with it, just as the poet's brief escape from reality fades, leaving him alone again. Finally, he says, was it a vision, or a waking dream? Fled is that music, do I wake or sleep? In this last lines, he is left wondering whether his experience was real or just an illusion. The nightingale's song is gone, and he is left in silence, unsure of whether he is awake or still dreaming. This ending creates a sense of mystery and uncertainty. That's all for today's lecture. I hope you enjoyed this explanation. If you found it helpful, don't forget to like and subscribe to my channel. Thank you.